Singapore and speak to Anurag Viswanath, who's a fellow at the Institute of Chinese Studies. Anurag, thank you so much indeed for your time. Could you give us an analysis of China's 12-point peace plan? I mean, the issue being that without that point or that clause about Russian soldiers having to withdraw from Ukrainian territory, without that, the pure mention of territorial integrity and sovereignty means nothing. Why would the Chinese put forward such a proposal?
Well, China, this is a very landmark and a very significant visit. This is the first visit since she took over. It's an unprecedented third term. So when you look at the 12-point plan, you have to see the context. And the context is China has always chosen to be neutral, partial, rational, and objective. In fact, most of the discussion between China and Russia sort of re-emphasized their long-lasting friendship and mutual respect for territorial sovereignty. However, she's plan did not quite name Russia as the aggressor. So she has chosen not to condemn Russia. She has chosen not to align with Russia. At the same time, he has proposed a ceasefire and, to humanitarian efforts to ensure there is nuclear safety. So the many things which are on board the 12-point plan, which are very rational. However, the criticism is that they're very general and very ambiguous. They're not very specific.
Is it something to do with much more than the war in Ukraine? In other words, Russian energy. How much does China need that?
Well, again, China and Russia, they are neighbors. In fact, you have to recognize that they are strategic partners. They share a long border, almost 4,000-kilometer long border. And Russia is a very important player in Europe. And it's like Turkey. It's a very important player in Europe. It's also a very important player in Russia. And given the geopolitical reality of what is happening in Asia, Kishida's visit to Ukraine, you have Japan and Korea, a big thaw in their relations, and also the Ukrainian war, the war in Ukraine. It is sort of a message to China about what could happen in Taiwan. So there are a lot of read between the lines when it comes to this Ukraine war. And yet China and India and Turkey, of course, are big winners in the war because of Russia's oil exports to these countries. So these countries have much to gain and are gaining economically.
Anurag, so the question was how much China needs Russian energy. If we look at it the other way around, do you think Russia is in danger of becoming far too dependent on China? Because if it turns out that China economically is the one nation that can continue to support the Russian economy, that gives Beijing so much leverage over Moscow.
Well, it's not just China. It's also several other countries around the world which are supporting Russia. As in supporting Russia, as in supporting, the oil exports from Russia. And so it's not just China. In fact, both Russia and China have put out their position on the world not being a unipolar world against, the Cold War mentality, because give and take, whether a unipolar world is good for the world, that is also a very critical question.
It certainly is. I'm not sure we can answer it right now. Anurag, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Anurag Viswanath in Singapore.